Oh God, it's so good. So good. So good and tasty.
When I was growing up, there were a lot of awesome Star Wars games to play, and those games are what made me love Star Wars. But with time, Star Wars has fallen off a bit. But in its place, another franchise has swooped in, Warhammer. It feels like there is a flood of Warhammer games, and while some aren't that great, there are a few that are absolute gems. Battlefleet Gothic, the Total War games, Dawn of War 2, Vermintide, and now Darktide. These games have made me fall in love with Warhammer. I actually know some lore now, and I'm strongly considering listening to a Warhammer audiobook. I was more of a Warhammer fantasy guy, and was kinda meh with 40k, but Darktide has changed that. The gameplay, the bits of lore, the dialogue, voiceover, the guns, the environments of the levels, and the amazing soundtrack. Everything about this game feels like the developers giving a presentation about why you should love Warhammer 40k. But I'm mainly playing during the beta, which means the experience I'm having now is probably worse than the launch experience, because of the performance issues and server disconnects. But even with those problems, I'm still having a great time. Darktide is awesome, but it's in a shit state right now. The gameplay is so fucking good that I can ignore the problems this game has at the moment. The impact your weapons have on the horde, the teamplay dynamic, the uniqueness of the classes, there's just a lot to love here. Let's start with the basics though. It's a melee combat and FPS hybrid. Lots of different weapons with each class having unique weaponry, and the game has staged reloads, which is so awesome. It basically means the reload animations for guns have stages. So if you start to reload a gun and you get to stage 2 of the reload animation and switch to your melee weapon, the next time you switch to the gun, it will start the reload animation at stage 2 instead of starting over. I love when games have that. And I think it's necessary, because you need to switch weapons so much. I mostly use the ranged weapons to kill ranged enemies and the special enemies, and then when the horde or melee enemies close in, I swap to a melee weapon. That seems to be the prevailing strategy, since if you try to rush into ranged enemies with a melee weapon, you will be absolutely shredded by their bullets. And don't try to be a one-man army in this game. That will get you killed quickly. Even just 3 of the weakest enemies can quickly kill you if you aren't paying attention. This is a team game. You need your team to stay alive. Some of the special enemies are also designed to kill the solo players, like the dogs. They are kinda like pit bulls, and you are like an unattended child. They will jump on you and eat your face unless your teammates save you. There's also the Candy Van, aka the Trapper, who shoots a net at you to capture you, and your teammates have to free you. That is why you stick close to your teammates. Even just the horde can be too much on your own. Teammates just make everything easier. The classes are also each good at different things. I haven't played all of them, but the Psyker and Veteran are focused on ranged attacks, and Zealot and Ogrin are melee focused. With the Psyker looking like it's ranged crowd control and Ogrin melee crowd control, and Zealot and Veteran focused on damage, but it mostly depends on the weapons you pick. I played the Zealot and Psyker mainly, and with the Zealot his weaponry mostly focused on damage, and the Psyker staffs had crowd control. And this is a good reason for you to want to play all the classes, to try the different playstyles and all the unique weapons. And every single weapon is worth trying, because at least with the melee weapons, they each have different attack patterns and damage and a unique special attack. Fat Shark did an amazing job with the weapons here. The missions you play are just a linear level that's basically go here, do thing, leave. But the missions can have modifiers like a fog that makes it very hard to see, or an endless horde. And sometimes you have to look for collectibles. The missions are just a platform for your character to purge the heretics. So, since I played the Zealot and Psyker, let me tell you a little about them so you can get an idea of how unique they are. The Zealot goes hard. His special ability is charging forward and regenerating all your toughness, which is basically armor. I used that ability almost exclusively to charge into melee so I could carve the heretics with my chain axe or chain sword. The Zealot's feats mostly focus on regenerating toughness or boosting damage during combat. So it's a class that's made to stay in combat and just left click everything that moves, or mouse button forwarding for the special attack. And if your health drops to 0, you will become invulnerable, and a feat can give you the ability to lifesteal from your damage, so you can heal back up and stay in combat. It's a glorious class. What does right click do? How should I know? I play Zealot. The Psyker. This time we start with his secondary ability, the G button. The other classes have a grenade or something on the G, but the Psyker has Brain Burst, a high damage single target ability that generates peril when you charge it up. If it hits 100%, you explode and die, so he's like a suicidal mob from Mob Psycho 100. His main ability, the F, is a force push that clears all your peril. You can also clear the peril with R, kinda like reloading. Obviously, the F is crowd control, but the Psyker CC mainly comes from the staffs, like the Void Strike Trauma Force Staff. It has a projectile on left click, and on right click it shoots an AoE explosion that knocks enemies around and does great damage. It's awesome. There's also the Surge Staff, so you can shock the heresy out of enemies, and an AoE staff that targets the ground and knocks enemies around, and a Flamethrower Staff. But none of them feel as strong as the Void Strike Staff. But the main gameplay mechanic of the Psyker is balancing the peril so you don't explode. But you can select a feat that gives you more damage the higher your peril is, I think. The talent says based on your current peril, which is a little unclear. The Psyker has a huge problem in my opinion. When you use Brain Burst and hold right click to charge it, if it isn't fully charged and you press left click, it will reset the charge. And that is unbelievably frustrating, and that cannot be the intended experience. I don't know how that would make it out of playtesting. So, mostly crowd control with high single target damage potential. Of the two of them, I like the Zealot far more. That Brain Burst problem infuriates me too much, and I don't feel like the Psyker has enough payoff for managing the peril. Aside from the Void Strike Staff, but maybe the higher level feats offer some payoff. They keep talking about Soul Blaze in the feats, but I can't seem to find anything on the feat screen that explains what Soul Blaze is, which you should really have an explanation of that on the feat screen. But the Zealot is cool. The state of the game. Alright, let's talk performance. My FPS was typically around 40, but it would dip below that and occasionally go up to 60 for a while. So the frame rate wasn't stable. And that's really the main issue with performance. I didn't notice anything else, but I did see some people in my matches mention desync. But I personally didn't notice any networking issues aside from being disconnected from matches. I have played the game for about 70 hours now, and me being disconnected from matches happened under 10 times. Like probably just 6 times. And more often than not, I was able to reconnect right away. But I did crash the desktop a few times and was never able to reconnect from that. Which sucks a huge Nurgle wiener. There was one time where a mutant picked me up and threw me outside of the map. Usually when you fall off the map, you go into a state of hanging onto a ledge where a teammate can pick you up. That didn't happen, because I got thrown into some weird corner of the map that I couldn't get out of. So the devs need to close that off. One problem I have with the game is how fast mission difficulties unlock. I feel like you unlock them way too soon. Like the level 4 difficulty, I can go into that at like level 20, which is just way too soon in my experience. I go into that and just immediately get pounded with no lube. So they need to set players up with the expectation that this is incredibly hard and you aren't ready for it. Not to mention that they probably don't even have gear that is good enough for that difficulty. So they should probably have a higher level restriction. Also, I would like to see exactly how much ammo my teammates have instead of the white to red indicator we have now. This isn't necessarily a problem, but the elimination bosses are extremely easy to bully. If the team just rushes in with melee weapons, their health just melts down. And it's a little anticlimactic, and I think the bosses will need to be a little more interesting than this slapfest. I think we should get a new piece of gear after every match instead of just sometimes like it is now. I mean, sure, you can go buy some gear with the currency you get from missions, but the items there rotate once an hour, and more often than not, there is only one thing there that I actually want. In the pre-order beta, there is a pretty low amount of missions, and it can get tiring to play the same missions again and again. But still, I keep playing them because the game is just that fun. Also, I think higher difficulty missions should offer way more experience than they do now. But the money they give is good. Conclusion. Darktide is a really good game, and I recommend it, but the performance and balancing is probably not gonna be in the state that Fat Shark wants it to be in at launch. And it will probably be a rocky experience, but I feel safe saying that Fat Shark is gonna fix all of it. Even with the current problems in the pre-order beta, I have been playing the game non-stop. I was actually surprised when I saw that I had played the game for 70 hours. It's $40 on Steam, and I think that is a very good price because I love this game. It is awesome, and I cannot wait for new missions and hopefully more Chaos factions and Tyranids. Right now it's just Nurgle enemies, and that's cool, but I want more. I give the game 4.5 bolt guns out of 5 thunder hammers. It will be 5 out of 5 once they iron out the issues. Okay, I am going into final exams in December, and then I'm gonna fuck off to Tenerife for 2 weeks, so probably no videos in December. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, subscribe and all that noise, and have an awesome day.